Now for a quick little aside about particles, so using a 2D planar particle, you don't really have to worry about the UV coordinates because it's just a square shape and an image just fits right on there. But if you're using the cubes or the stars or pyramids, it's not necessarily clear where your textures are going to show up. So on this Adding 3D Particles page in the documentation, there's this subtle little link here that says download the texture reference files here. And if you click that, you'll download these 6 images. And what these are basically the UV coordinates of all these 3D particles. So for instance, in this example, there's a bunch of dye falling from the sky. If we scroll down, you can see this cube UV layout here. And it doesn't show the texture they made, but you can just imagine each face of the dye is one of these little squares. Some of these are pretty simple, like a cylinder makes sense. There's a top, bottom, and sides. The star is super obvious. The torus is fairly confusing, but I think if you look at it long enough, you'll kind of unwrap it in your head. And worst case scenario, you just draw on this, throw it into Spark, and then you'll see the effects of it pretty quick. So if you want to get fancy with particles, this is an absolute must to understand where all the textures get mapped to. And if UV coordinates don't really make sense to you, just think of it like a piece of chocolate with a foil wrapper on it. A piece of chocolate is obviously a 3-dimensional object, and the foil wrapper on the outside of it is also 3D. But if you take that foil off and flatten it out, you're left with a 2D image, and that's essentially what all of these are doing. You're taking a 2D image and you're wrapping it around these 3D objects.